Hello everyone. Welcome to the Bright Baubles Masterclass. Oh, sorry, I'm just trying to get my chair set in here and almost slipped right off. So if you are just finding me here for the first time, you are watching Sarah Lynn Duque with Sarah Lynn Stamps. And I'm just trying to get my computer up and running so I can see as you guys join. Sorry, excuse my fingers here. There's like some stuff hanging off the camera there. So we are going to be doing some fun techniques with this class, or with this bundle here, the Bright Baubles bundle. This is one of many beautiful Christmas bundles out of the mini catalog, and that's this one here, the July to December 2001 mini catalog. And if you don't have one of these, leave me a note in the comments and I would be happy to send you one. Hi Mom, say hello as you come on, as you're joining me here. I'm just trying to get things organized and let people find me on Facebook, or give Facebook a chance to notify people that I'm on, and then we'll get right at it here. But I wanted to show you this bundle, if I can find it in the catalog here. I had my finger on something else in here. Let's see, page 40 in your mini catalog. So this is the bundle here that we're going to be focusing on tonight. This is the Bright Baubles, and it comes with a stamp set that has two really large kind of images, bauble images, and some really nice sentiments that you can use for a variety of different cards or projects that you're making for the holidays. It also has coordinating dies, and the dies are really, I mean, the whole thing's beautiful, but you will see that the dies are kind of what make this bundle. The dies are absolutely beautiful. They're very versatile. You can do a lot of different things with them. And the stamp set is $31, or the whole bundle is $71. And of course you can just buy the dies as well if you decide that you only want the dies. There's a lot. Well, tonight actually, let me think about this. We do use the sentiments a bit, but we are focusing on the dies tonight. So you might be surprised by that, because one of the major perks of this stamp set are these large images, and they are so perfect for coloring. So if you are a coloring enthusiast, this is going to be right up your alley and you are going to love this set. But tonight we're not coloring, or we're not coloring the stamped images. So you might be surprised by some of the stuff or some of the projects that we do tonight, and I guess how little stamping we do. Anyways, let's get right at it. So the Bright Baubles bundle, I tonight want to share with you a couple cards as well as give you an idea for a tag box. And as I said, the majority of tonight's projects really focus on the dies. I want to show you how to use them to make some really fun projects. So the first thing we're going to do is I want to show you how to do the stained glass technique. So there's a little bit of coloring in this, but what we're going to start with is actually a piece of the brushed metallic cardstock, and this again is found in your mini catalog. And I attempted to leave a link, a shopping link for you. I created a list of all of the supplies, but when I hit live, I noticed that the link was not there. So I will repost that once we are done with our video here tonight. But I just have a small piece of, I think this is about, I just kind of cut sort of a little piece off of, but I can measure this for you. This is about 3 by 4-ish. And so we are going to actually do quite a bit of die cutting today. I'm going to pull out the dies here and let you take a peek at them. So these dies here, this is the die set. It comes with 2 different cards of dies. They're upside down. And, oh yes, one of them I'm using. I was thinking there's one missing. So you have a snowflake. This one here says Merry and Bright. And then you've got the outside of them as well. So if you remember the stamps, we have one that's shaped like this. This outside one would cut out these. It will also cut out the Merry and Bright as well. There's a tree one that I've actually already used, and so I've got that set aside. Where the circle one here is for cutting out this round bauble, or the snowflakes, or the joy. And then these little ones, you're probably wondering what are there for. But on these larger ones here, you would take these little tiny ones, and on your Stampin', well, it's sitting on your Stampin' Emboss machine, it goes right in here and it's going to punch the hole for you. So you could actually make real ornaments with this, or as I'm going to show you in a little bit here, we'll make some tags and stuff. And then there's a bow that you can cut out to add to your projects too. So that's what comes with your dies. What we're going to use tonight is we are going to use actually this one and the Merry and Bright. Okay, so I'm going to pull those two out, and I don't need a hole all the way through, so I'm not going to worry about that right now. Let me set this aside. And as you've seen me before, when we're using detailed dies, a really great practice is to actually take an adhesive sheet. So this is an adhesive sheet. It comes in a package like this with a whole bunch of different sheets. And what they basically are is it has two sides of paper with a sticky sheet in between. So you take off the one side, and it has these little edges here like that. So we're going to just peel that off. And I like to just do one side first, and we're going to just add that to the back of the piece of cardstock that we're going to cut out. So an intricate die would be anything that has a lot of little pieces or a lot of little sections on it that you're going to need to cut out or poke out. What I'll show you anyways. Then I'm going to take off the other piece here, and I'm going to just slide that down like this. So you could actually make this just slightly smaller than your piece of cardstock as well. But that's going to go on the back, and I'm actually not going to trim it off. I don't think I need to. I'm going to set that aside right now, and I'm going to bring up my Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine. So I'm going to need a little bit of space here. Let my camera refocus for a minute. So for die cutting, all of your instructions are on the base plate here on number 1. It tells you what you need for each type of die cutting. So right now you're using dies. So we need base plate 1. We need the second number 2. So here we've got number 1. Here we've got number 2. And then we're going to sandwich our dies in paper between the two cutting plates, the two number 3s. So I'm going to take one number 3 and set that on the bottom. And then I'm going to take my piece of paper, and I'm going to take my die. Now the side that goes down is the bumpy side. So that's the side that goes down. We're going to set that on top of our paper. And then I'm going to put the other number 2 on top, just like that. Now, if you're worried about this moving around, you can use a piece of painter's tape to hold your die down to the first plate, or you could also this is a really easy way to do that. Just take a Post-it note or a piece of something sticky and just stick it on like that. And that's going to hold it in place for you so it's not moving around. In this case, it's not such a big deal, but if you had a smaller piece or something that needed to line up a little bit better, then that's a really good practice, is just to put a piece of sticky on there. Okay, so now I'm just going to take the handle. Let me move this over so you can see the handle. I'm going to shove this in, and you're just going to wheel it through. So we might wobble a little bit here as I go. I'm trying to go slow so I don't wobble too much, but I think I'm wobbling anyways. I don't think you can see the handle. The handle's right here. So you just give it a good twist until it pops out the other side. And then you take off your top plate, and your die is just like this. So let me just move this out of the way. And while I'm doing this, I'm actually going to die cut my other piece as well, since I've got this out here. So the other thing that we're going to die cut is I've got a piece here of just regular white, basic white cardstock, cut to the same size. And I'm going to I want to make sure I'm cutting the right piece here. Yes, I am. I'm going to take this die, the outside die. You know what? I almost did it wrong. I am going to take my Mossy Meadows. I was like, something is not right here. And I'm going to kind of center that like this. And in this case, I don't want it to move. So I'm going to go ahead and put my sticky note on it like this to hold it in place, because I want it to be centered on my piece of Mossy Meadow cardstock. Okay, so we're going to do that again. And I'm going to just funnel that right through like this. I feel like when I made my demo card that this piece of cardstock was a little bigger. So we will see, folks, if I did something wrong. All right, I'm going to set this aside. We've done our die cutting for this card. So we have our piece like this, and we have our piece like this. Okay, so let me show you what we're going to do here. So this one here is going to become sort of like our window. So this just pops right out like that. Let's save this, and I'll show you what we can do with that after. This is the piece that we actually want for our card. Okay, so this piece here, we're going to pop this off, and you're left with this. Now, because it's kind of an intricate die, this will pop out of this piece here. But to get all these little pieces off, especially because we've got the adhesive paper behind, we have to kind of work with it a little bit. So what I like to do, and where did I put that? This is a very good question. Ah, here it is. Okay, this is a foam mat. It comes with your Take a Pick extension. So the extension is this little brush tool here, and it just screws into the end of your Take a Pick tool. And you just take this and you just brush it over top like so. And it's just helping to loosen all of those little pieces to make them easier to come out. So a lot of them are going to just fall out. And then when you lift it up, so you can see we still have some of that paper in the back, but that's okay. We're not worried about that. We want to get all these little pieces off. But the one thing about adding the adhesive sheets that's really helpful is if you watch this with intricate dies, is I've got the backing off here. And when I pull, I'm actually going to pull out a lot of, in theory, a lot of, I think, these extra little pieces. So we're going to go ahead and pull this off. Put that in the garbage. And then we've got left here with a few that we've got to still poke out. But we've loosened them, so now they just kind of pop out like this. And if they don't want to come out, you can also use your Take a Pick tool, the pointy end, which is what I'll use here in a minute. But this is what we're going to do. You know what? And I did this kind of backwards, but that's okay. We'll figure it out. I should have done another step first because now I've got this sticky bauble and I'm not ready to stick it on yet. Anyways, if you're joining me tonight, just say hello. Let me know who you are, where you're joining from. If you have any questions about what I'm doing here, I mean, usually I'm questioning myself too, going, what exactly are you doing? That is not what you're supposed to do. But it works out in the end, I promise you. I'm just going to put that upside down like that because it's ready to go, but I am not ready to go yet. And then just clean off my little mat and set it to the side. So what we need to do now, take this as a window sheet. So it's like a transparency, if you remember those. It's just a piece of acetate. And we're going to adhere that to the back. So the front of ours has sort of an embossed edge all around the sides of the bauble. We want to keep that because that's really pretty. So we're going to stick this to the back of our card. So what I'm going to use today is just a multi-purpose, and sorry, mine is so well used and dirty. I'm just going to put some like this, and you really just need enough so you can see. You don't want to put piles and piles of this because it's going to smush out everywhere. I'm just going to put a little on the sides, but... So it's similar to if we're doing a shaker card, this would be kind of a similar process that we would use. But we're not doing a shaker card today. Okay, so I've put my window sheet behind, and I've also got a silicone sheet here. And the reason I'm going to use this is because if there's any glue that's going to touch my work surface, it's not going to stick with this. So I'm going to flip this over. Now I'm going to take my sticky die here. I just want to make sure I got out all the little pieces. I can see one right here that I didn't get out. There we go. And this is going to fit into this section here. You know what? I didn't do this quite right. You know what I didn't do right, you guys? It doesn't matter. We're just going to put this on. When I did my demo card, I was trying to figure out what was different. I actually cut out my window slot with the same die. I didn't use the bigger die for the background. I used the same Merry and Bright so that the window fit up to the edges of the die. However, it doesn't matter. You're going to see this is going to work out just perfectly. And actually, it might work out better. This might have been a happy mistake. Okay, so we have got our window sheet on the back of our piece here. And now I'm going to flip it back over again. And what we're going to do is we're going to color in the background. The reason I stuck this on first is I want to be able to see where my gaps are. And so I have just chosen some random holiday colors. You could use the Stampin' Right markers. These ones here are the blends, the Stampin' blends, and I have chosen Cherry Cobbler, and I've chosen the darker colors. I just like how they contrast a little bit better. Cherry Cobbler, Mossy Meadow, Misty Moonlight, and this one is what? This one is Daffodil Delight. So then we're going to just kind of randomly color onto the back, looking at where the holes are. And you want to make sure that you kind of get it saturated in there. So you might have to go over it a couple times. And so we're going to just kind of color in like this. And so today I'm trying to take you through all of the steps, or most of the steps, I'm going to color this a little bit different. So it's going to just take us a little longer. Normally I would have some of this stuff done for you already, but so this time I'm going to actually just color the same color all around the letters. Now it doesn't matter if you go over where the white part is. That doesn't matter. We just want to make sure that the clear part is nice and saturated. So when I did my last one, I just randomly colored colors in different slots. But I thought that I might like it if I colored the same color where the letters were and then just put in different colors around it. So that's what I'm trying this time. So this is kind of an experiment. We'll see what happens. But see, if we turn it over, you're starting to see the effect, right? You're getting that sort of stained glass effect. And now I can already see one spot where I really want that, where I want that red right in here to finish off the Mary part. And you could just use one color if you want to. I think that that would look pretty too. But I think I'm going to use the red and the Cherry Cobbler and the Misty Moonlight to color around my letters here. And you can see, well, maybe you can't see because it's kind of light, but the blue isn't as saturated as the red is, so I'm going to probably go over that color a couple times. And I'm going to try to stick inside where the boundary of my bauble is and then just leave the outside here clear. You could color that into a different color if you want to, but I think it'll look nice clear. Okay, so I'm coloring this over one more time, the blue sections here, just to make it nice and saturated. Hi Dorothy, thanks for joining me tonight. I was originally supposed to do this on Friday, but I think I've mentioned this before, but I'm in my last semester of college, and things are just getting a little crazy. So I just didn't have time. So anyways, thank you for being flexible. Now I'm going to take the yellow and I'm going to color around some of these ones that are around the words a little bit. And really you could use any colors that you want for this. And if you had you could use any of the dies too. You don't have to use the bauble die like I did. You could use, well, I mean, they're all baubles, but I mean, you could use the snowflake or the tree. You can use any of them to really make a pretty card. So I've got Merry and Bright. And then I've got a little bit of yellow, which again, I need to kind of darken a little bit. And then I'm going to actually just use the Mossy Meadow. You know what? I might not use the Mossy Meadow. I'm just going to stick, because I've got Mossy Meadow around the edge. I'm going to just color all of this in with yellow. I think that's going to make it look a lot more windowy or stained glass. So let's try and color this in. And you'll see once we add this to our card that it starts to stand out a little bit more. I'm going to back it with some white cardstock to make it really stand out. Okay, so you could also cut a hole into the next layer of cardstock so that you can see all the way inside and have a window. But I like it back with a little bit of white. I think that it makes it sort of pop a little bit more. So that's what I have decided to do. So I'm going to take this white here. Now what we want to make sure we do, well, first of all, let's just make sure we've got the colors where we want them, or enough color. I think I need to color my blue again, you guys. My blue is not dark enough for me, so let's just try this again. Again, just keep layering the color until you get it as dark as you want, or try a different color if it's not dark. You could move to the night of navy blue, etc., or a different color. So what I'm going to do now is, in order for it to kind of reflect, you want this piece, your white or your transparency, to have sort of a layer between here. You want it to stand out so the light can get behind the transparency or the window sheet and really reflect through. So I'm going to just add some dimensionals here. And as you know, these are just foam adhesive dots. I'm going to add a few of these around the green part because I don't want it to show through my window. Okay, just like that. And let's pull these off. Now you want to be a little bit careful with your Stampin' blends because you're coloring on a window sheet. It's going to take a moment or so to dry. So if you touch it at this point, you're going to get it, one, all over you, and two, you'll probably smear it on your project. So you do want to be a little bit careful at this point. And then I'm going to take this and, well, actually I'm going to do it this way. I'm going to just adhere the white, making sure that I get it on the back around the whole window. And I can see already that I didn't quite get it at the bottom. There. And you can make this the same size as the green if you wanted to. I made mine a tiny bit smaller because I wanted to make sure it wasn't going to stick through. Actually, I really like that white around. I think, see, it was a happy mistake. It's really making the, what did I say this was called? Stained glass. The stained glass effect pop. Oh dear. All right, let's turn this into a card. I am like happy with my mistake. I really like that white around the edge. Anyways, you could do that or not do that. You can make a happy mistake or not. I'll show you the original one after, or the first one that I made, and you can decide which way you like it better. Okay, so now I've taken a piece of thick white cardstock, basic white cardstock, 5.5 by 8.5, scored it at 4 1/4 and folded it in half. I have a piece here. This is called Heartwarming Hugs Designer Series paper, and it's really traditional Christmas colors, reds and greens, and I think it's all reds and greens, actually. I don't think there's any other colors. There's like old olive, mossy meadow, and real red in it. So it's really a great holiday paper, and you're going to find this in the mini catalog as well. But you could use any festive cardstock. And I'm going to set this kind of right in the middle of my card, going from one side to the other. And if it doesn't quite, like I've cut mine, I think, a little bit too big, we can just trim that down after. So do not fret. So now, because this is already raised up one layer with the dimensionals, I'm actually going to just add some glue straight onto this white piece here. And adhere that to my card like this. Just like so. And then we'll just let that sit. Isn't that pretty? It's pretty. Okay, we need a couple more things to finish this card off, and those are called embellishments. So let's go ahead and add some, I have got some trim here that I set aside. Here it is. I couldn't quite decide what I wanted to do. So I pulled in, this is actually from the Playful Pets suite out of the annual catalog, and it has black and it has red, but I really like the red, and as you can see, mine is brand new. I did a different card this time than I did the first time. After I made my first one, I was like, I think I want to just change this up a little bit. So that's why none of this is open yet. So you could use any kind of trim here. A gold or a silver would look really nice with this metallic, but I really wanted to pull in some of the red off of this green paper in the background. So I'm going to use this beautiful trim instead. You could also die cut out the bow that is in the dies and use that, just glue that on the top here as well if you wanted to. So let's see what this looks like. I might change my mind if I don't like it, but that's the joy of crafting. You can just change it and do whatever you want. Okay. So let's take a peek at this and see, what do we think about that? The other option is to add, I have this other trim, but you know what? I don't really love it because you can see this gold doesn't quite match. So I think I'm going to stick with the red. I'm going to trim off these little tails a little bit. And the way I like to add my bows is just with mini glue dots. They come in a box like this on a roll, and so you just roll it out and stick your embellishments on like so, and then they're just little tiny dots on here of adhesive, and they're great for adding embellishments. So I'm going to add my bow on right up here at the top with that. And because my thing says Merry and Bright, I don't actually need to add another sentiment. You could, of course, if you wanted to, but there we go. What do you think of that? Do you like that card? I would probably play with this bow a little bit more off camera, but there we go. Do you like the stained glass look? Isn't that pretty? And it wasn't really hard. It did take a couple of steps, but not overly difficult, but really pretty. So the first one that I made was like this, and you can see how I colored the different sections, different colors, and I did it all white with sort of a red background. This is what the die cut looks like, the bow, and then I added some gold from the brushed metallic adhesive, what are those called? Brushed metallic, I don't know, adhesive dots or something. They're in the mini catalog. But see, this one fits right to the edge of the hole, and this one has the white around it. I think I like the white around the edge. That makes it pop a little bit. Do you have a preference? You guys are a quiet bunch. But that's okay, we're here to craft, right? Okay, let's move on to the next step. So remember how we cut out of here and we kept the backing off of here? So I wanted to show you how you can take this. I have another one here as well. You can take these and create a really fun and cute tag set. So we did the exact same thing. I've cut these out. You could do this with the round ones, with the snowflakes. And then I have the detailed pieces here cut out, and you can just add those on top of the dies here and make tags. So what I would do is I would just match up the different tags, and oops, and I did do that already. Let me show you some examples. So these ones here are, again, the Merry and Bright. And we have, so this one here I adhered down with adhesive sheets, but these ones I didn't, and I kind of like them, but it's up to you what you prefer. So this one is just cut out of the real red, and then I've got the shimmery white cardstock on the front, and I've added some adhesive, some rhinestones, just some silver rhinestones. And I kind of like the white against the colors, this one is falling apart, against the more traditional colors. But like I said, you could also make them with the brushed metallic as well. Those are really pretty. So here's one with the tree. Here's one, oopsies. Here's one with the snowflake. So what I did here, this will let me show you, is I cut this out with the white, put it on top of, this is I think Coastal Cabana. And with this blue trim, or silver trim, I just folded it in half. And then I stuck it from the front to the back through the hole. So in this one, you would have to use that small hole cut or whatever to cut in the back piece. The front one comes with a hole, if that makes sense. The detail die has a hole already in it. The back one, you've got to cut that extra piece off with the die if you want it. And then I just stuck it through the hole and tied it in. So it does get a little loose. I would recommend sort of just maybe giving that an extra knot. And then I've added some of the silver rhinestones in here. And here's another one that's just loose. It's got the brushed metallic against the old olive. So you can really mix and match whatever. And if you've cut something out to do a different project like your stained glass, don't throw it away, because you can use it for making a quick tag. And then I didn't stamp all of these, so let me see. And then you would just, on the back of this, one of the stamps in the set says to and from. You can just quickly take one of your ink pads. I've got Memento Black here, but you could also use another festive color. And I'm just going to stamp that on the back. So it says to and from. So I would do that on the back of all of my tags. So you can use these for your own gift giving, or I took one of these small acetate boxes. These boxes are 3 1/8, I believe, 3 3/8. I'm not sure. They're meant to fit 3 1/4 inch cards in them. But what I did is I cut a piece of that same designer series paper, measuring 3 by 3, and I just set that in the back to kind of add some color. And I've taken all of my different tags here, and we'll just pretend those ones are finished. And I've stuck them in here. They fit just perfectly, leaning to the side, and tuck in all these little silver cords. And we are going to just close this up. Now I'm trying to hurry a little bit for your sake, but you would just tuck those in like that, close in your box. And then I made a little belly band. So this is made out of that same cardstock. I think it measures just 1.5 inches. And then I bent it around the box like so, and cut a piece of cherry cobbler glimmer ribbon. It has a lot of gold in it. It's really pretty. And I tied it around the box, but because I took it off, it fell off. Anyways, in an ideal world, it would not be this complicated. All right, let me just retie it. So all I did, I put the belly band on here, and I took a piece of ribbon, and tied it around as well. And now instead of having gift tags for yourself to put on gifts, you've got a little gift to give someone with a bunch of tags that really is kind of effortless. And I think anybody, especially at this season, like it would be a nice gift for end of school year, like before the holidays for teachers, when they're getting ready to package their own gifts. And there you go. You've got a pretty little box here. You could also, if you remember when I did the shaker box, those craft boxes, I have mine here. You could also use one of these boxes. Oh dear, mine's fallen apart. But you could use one of these boxes and put your tags in here as well for your gift. So there's a lot of different gift giving options as well, but I wanted to give you this idea. I have another card for you. Let's stamp. All right, so the next card we're going to do is kind of a paper piecing card, and is, I don't know, it's fun. I really like it, but it is a little finicky, but you guys are going to love it too because I know you. I know you, and I know you're going to love it. So this card actually came as an idea out of the mini catalog. I don't remember which page. It was on the page with the snowflake set, and so this is kind of a case from that page, or I got the idea from that page. So let me get my supplies out here. So we're going to need a few pieces of cardstock. These ones here are all just sort of scraps that we're going to use, and I'll show you how that goes. But for our main card, we have a base that measures, again, 8.5 by 5.5, scored at 4 1/4. And I'm going to just fold that in half. Got my light shining here, and it's kind of glaring in my eyes. I can't really see what I'm doing. Okay. We have our card base done. I have another piece here that measures 3. Let me double check that. 3.5 by 5.5. And we are going to emboss this. So I have this beautiful embossing set. This is a really fun one. This one is called the Wintry 3D Embossing Folder. And you actually get 2 embossing folders with this. So you get one that has sort of pine branches on it and one that has snowflakes. So you have 2 different designs in this one package. I am going to use the pine needle one today, but it would do the exact same thing with the snowflakes. So you're going to just set this inside of here, and we're going to run this through the Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine again. So now that I brought everything out, I'm going to just set it aside because I need space. All right, let's make sure we don't lose the dies. Okay. So let's bring our machine back. So this time we have a 3D embossing folder. So we're going to use different plates. So what we need for this one, it tells us here is we need base number 1, we need your embossing folder, and then you need base number 4. So we're going to set aside all of our other cutting plates for the time being, and we are going to just run this through like so. Just like this. And so these embossing folders, what they do is they just add imprints or texture to your cardstock. So now we have cardstock that has the indent of different pine trees on it. Isn't that pretty? Yeah, I love it. So we're going to add this to our card front. So what we're going to do is I really like to use the liquid glue with this one because it's textured. The glue just kind of sits into the little rivets or divots or whatever you want to call it, and helps it to adhere a little bit better. So it works really well. And I am going to adhere this over here on the right hand side of my card. So I'm going to line it up with the edge of the right, just like this, and stick it down just like that. And then we are also going to take a piece of Designer Series paper. This is the same paper that Heartwarming Hugs Designer Series paper. And I'm going to stick in the same color family that I already used. I'm going to use a piece of red out of that package and some liquid adhesive. And then I'm going to stick this on kind of towards the bottom like so. Okay, now we're going to set this aside and we are going to kind of do the fun part now with the bright bubble dies. So there's a few steps with this, and I actually already cut out one of the pieces here. Well, actually, we've got to do one thing first. Okay, so I have a piece of vellum, and these are just kind of scraps that are going to fit. And we are going to use, oh, I know why I did this. I've got to show you this first. So I've got, I cut out the tree already with a white here. And I use an adhesive sheet on this piece. So you can just kind of, will usually just pop up here at the bottom for you to pull out. But if it doesn't, you're going to take your Take-A-Pick tool and you're just going to stick it into one edge here. And it's going to just kind of loosen up like this. And then you can pull it out. So that's what we're going to do. Now this one has adhesive on it. And I left it in there because I don't know why. Because I actually need this die. So then you can take your Take-A-Pick tool to get all these little pieces out here as well. They just poke through and you can clean out your folder if all these little pieces don't come out. Okay. And it'll actually cut again if you have these little pieces in here, but we're going to get those all out of here for this. Now this one, because it has bigger spots, is a lot easier to get these little pieces out of. I don't even use my my brush for this one. That's more for really detailed, intricate ones. All right, so let's go ahead and we are going to, again, I'm going to take the outside one from our tree. We've got a few steps here, so I'm going to set this aside and get out my embossing machine again. We are going to be using dies, so we need to go back to our previous sandwich, and that was with plate number 2. Plate number 3. This is the one that you're going to use the most often. And then you're going to put another 3 on top. So I've got my vellum on here. And you'll notice that your plates get scratched up, but they work perfectly fine. I used the same plates for a year before I bought replacement plates. And replacement plates are $15 for the set of 2. And the reason I bought new ones is because mine were quite warped. And I noticed that they weren't cutting as nicely as they had been. So I just want to make sure. I might have moved my die. Anyways, we're going to just push this through like that. And then I usually go like this. And now we've got a piece of vellum that we've cut out. I'm going to set that aside because we need to now use our tree die and cut out some more pieces. Okay, hold on. Hold the phone, people. We're going to do this first. So I'm going to first put the piece of white on here. It will all make sense in a minute. So I'm going to take this and peel off the backing. And if you're having trouble with this, well, it's really not that difficult unless you're on camera and people are waiting for you to get it off. There we go. You can use your Take-A-Pick tool as well to get this started, to pull it off. All right, so I'm going to stick this piece of, this is a shimmery white, so it has a little bit of a shimmer to it. And I'm going to just center that on here. And I like to just start at one end and then just kind of lay it down going to the other end so that I can center it on. And if it's not perfect, it does have a little bit of grace, so just take a peek at it before you push it all the way down. Okay, we want to do that first. Now let me show you why. I've got this on here. I've got it nicely adhered, the white onto the vellum. Now we're going to go back to our machine, our Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine. And we are going to start cutting out some trees. I'm going to start with the green. I'm just on a scrap of old olive here. I'm going to put this on, and because it doesn't, I have a big enough piece here that it doesn't matter. I don't need to adhere it down with a sticky note or a piece of tape. I'm going to just push that through like so. Now this is where it gets not tricky, but this is where you're going to see why I wanted to have that other piece in place. So now what we're going to do is we are going to basically be building a puzzle. So I'm going to turn this over and I'm going to try to keep as much as I can. So you'll see that some of the static here is pulling out some of the pieces, but that's okay. I'm going to leave in as many pieces as I can. And then I might actually just go back and piece some of these back in. So you can see where they came from. When they pull up, they kind of come from the opposite way. And I'm going to just piece these back in here so that you can see exactly what I'm doing. So it's best to have as many pieces in here as you can, just so you know where they go. All right, so now what we're going to do is I love to use my Take-A-Pick tool for this. And so I actually have 2 Take-A-Picks. I have this one, and I have this one. So I bought two because I often use the different ends and I don't have to change them out. So this one I have my pokey tool and I have my brush. And on this one I have the, I don't know what it's called, but the little ball end. And I have my sticky putty end. So we're going to use the sticky putty end, and I'm going to bring back in my tree. And I'm going to just start taking the pieces from here. See how you can just pick them up. And I'm going to add a little bit of glue. We're going to do this in sections. So I'm going to add just a tiny little bit of glue to the bottom section here of the tree. And then I'm going to just start puzzle piecing it in. So you can see that it's pretty easy, and it will be opposite from where you pick it up. So if I pick it up on this side, it's going to go on this side, obviously, because it's upside down. So I'm going to start sticking these in, and you can use your fingers, but I really love the Take-A-Pick tool because some of the pieces get kind of small, as you'll see as we continue to go. Okay. I'm going to do this in sections until I've got the whole tree done. And it's just like a puzzle. So there, I've got one row done, and I'm going to continue with the rest. So this is just a really pretty way to jazz up your card. I mean, you could just put a solid color in the back or just leave the vellum. I think that's pretty also, but I love this piecing. And after all, it is a master class, so we've got to do something a little bit more than just, you know, the normal. And you could use any color combination. I'm using this one here just to kind of replicate the colors that are in the designer series paper, and also just to go with the rest of the different pieces I have done here today. Okay, so we've just got the top of our tree to do. And so what I would recommend when you do this is just to do one color at a time. So I've cut out the green here with the die cutting, and I'm going to run it through again and do a blue one so that I can get the pieces for the sky. Now if I cut them all at once, I'm going to end up with a lot of different pieces flying around. And as you saw, they don't all stay in very well. So I want to keep as many pieces as I can in the actual die. So again, just like we said on the last one, you want to keep your extra pieces. So now I have an extra one of these that can be used to create tags. So I'm making a multitude of different projects all at once. So it works out pretty well. I'm just going to clean this out quick, these little tiny pieces, before I run it back through. Okay, so now I'm going to run it through with a piece of blue cardstock. Okay. So the blue that I've chosen to use is Pool Party. I think Pool Party is a really fun kind of non-traditional blue to use for Christmas. It's just such a bright, fun color. Okay, so we've got this. We've got our Pool Party. We're gonna run this through. Actually, I got my plates a little crooked here. As you can see, they don't have to line up exact to go through, but it gets a little harder to twist if they're not lined up. Okay, so let's take these again and try to keep as many as we can inside of just static electricity makes these kind of plates want to pick up some of the paper. So we've got our blue again, and I didn't do this quite right. I want to flip it over like this. Okay. I'm not concerned about those pieces because none of them are for the sky. Okay, so let's start piecing our sky. Now the sky it's not too difficult, except we've got these little pieces over here in the star. So I will try to rush through this a little bit. And I think most of these big pieces I can probably do, or the big sections, I can probably add all the glue at once. And then we'll go back and do the little sections. Okay, so again, we're working opposite. So this one goes over here. And the liquid glue is nice because you have a little bit of a window to move stuff around. So if it's not 100% where you want it to be, you have some time to kind of still shuffle it. And I got one more big piece that seems to have fallen out. Let's see if we can find it. Here it is. There you go. So now we've got these little pieces to do. Actually, I'm going to do these two bottom ones as well. So I kind of lost them here, but these are the two pieces. Forgot about these ones down here. So I am putting the paper onto the front of the tree. So the tree is, the vellum is on the back, and then the white piece is on, and then I'm adding the pieces to the front of the vellum so that the cardstock sits on front of the piece, if that makes sense. Okay, let's try and get some of these little pieces in here. This is where it gets a little bit finicky. All right. You might have to poke some of these out. Okay. And they kind of, that one does not fit there. Anyways, it's hard to concentrate and talk. So I'm going to do my best here, people. I have to go back and poke some of those in a little bit more. Okay. Now the last thing that we're going to do is run it through one last time, and we're going to cut out a yellow star for our top of our tree. You could also just use an embellishment if you wanted to, instead of going through the die cut again. Once this dries, some of this extra adhesive that's sticking out here, we can just rip that off, but we need this to dry first. Okay, all right, we've got one last little run through just for a star. So let's take again, we've got this extra die in here that we can use for our tag project. So we're going to take that and set it aside and make some pretty tags with it. I'm going to just punch these out. And now we don't need to really punch out the whole thing, I just need the star. So I just have a small piece of Bumblebee cardstock. We are going to once again use our tree, and I'm just going to put the top of it here onto the plate and then run it through. And I'll just do that over here to the side. Give me 1 second. Okay. And we're going to bring back in our plates. Okay, so now we've got just the star is all we need. So this is a little bit easier because, well, that's all we need. We're going to add a little bit more glue here on top of our vellum. And then I'm going to take, again, my trusty take a pick tool here and stick in the star right at the top. And I just think that the yellow star makes this card. So, I mean, it's worth the extra run through for that yellow. So once this dries, we'll just kind of clean this up a little bit where the adhesive is showing through. But for now, let's carry on with our card. So this is, you could also make tags like this, but it would take you a little bit longer, but they are really pretty. So if you had someone that you really liked and wanted to go to the trouble, this is a stunning tag, I think. It would be absolutely beautiful. But we're going to use it as an element on our card. So I'm going to, once again, just use liquid glue on the back of my tag. And you want to keep the liquid glue behind the actual cardstock, not on the edges where the vellum shows, because you'll see your adhesive. So try to stick within behind the cardstock. And then we're going to take this and we're going to just adhere this over here on the left-hand side like so. Now we're going to do a little bit of embossing for this one. After all, it is a masterclass. So if you are not familiar with embossing, I have a whole video on YouTube on embossing. It's called Embossing 101 on Sarah Lynn Stamps on YouTube. So go check that out as well. I'll try to put a link in the description for you. This again is a piece of the shimmery white cardstock. And I think this is a really great cardstock for the holidays because of that sparkle. And what we're going to use is Merry and Bright. We need a Versamark ink pad. And I'm not too concerned that I'm getting it 100% straight because I'm going to just cut it out after. So I've just adhered that like so. Not adhered, stamped it like that. This is a clear, Versamark is a clear sticky ink. So that when I add my embossing powder, it's going to stick to my image. And I've got silver embossing powder here. So our embossing powder comes in a set of 3. And there's one that is neutrals. So it has black, white, and black and white and something. And there's another one that has metallic. So it has like gold, silver, and copper in the package. Oh, I think clear. Black, white, and clear. I just turn this over and give it a little bit of a flick to get the extra embossing powder off around the edges here. And then using my piece of, I just have a piece of scrap paper here that I folded in half. I just use it like a funnel to put it back into the container. So that works really well for me. I like it simple and easy. The other thing you need for embossing is a heat gun. So, or a heat tool. You cannot use your blow dryer for this. It will not work. It doesn't get hot enough. I get that question a lot, which is why I mention it often. But again, I have a video on all the steps that go along with this. So feel free to go look at this. So this just takes a moment. It gets a little bit noisy, so stick with me. And you'll know that it's done because it'll just start turning shiny on here. And I'll try to point it out when it starts. You're just going to move your heat tool back and forth over your paper. And you can even do this from the back underneath of the paper if you want. But I don't see the difference. So there you can see it starting to change. And so it's just like that. So once it's all shiny and all changed, then you know you're done. And that's it. And then it's dry. You don't have to worry about it burning you or you smearing it. It's dry as soon as it's done. So then you're good to go. All right, I'm going to cut off this one end. I want it to be about that long. And we are going to just follow this. Because it has a nice straight bottom, I can kind of just cut it with my paper snips. You could also use your paper trimmer if you're more comfortable with that. It really doesn't, I don't notice that it makes a huge difference if it has a slight, you have a slight imperfection. After all, we are handcrafting this, making it personally for the people that we love or like. Okay, so we have Merry and Bright. Now we need to adhere this to our card with some dimensionals. So again, I'm going to pull these foam adhesives off, these foam dimensionals. And we're going to just stick those there. Pull off the backs. And this is going to go right here. So I want to stick it kind of, I think up here. And I'm going to line it up with the right-hand side of the card. Come along. And you really could place it wherever you like. But I like it just like that. So the last thing we need to do, or that I like to do, is I'm going to add a bow. And for this card, I am going to use the Simply Elegant trim. Comes in gold and silver. And this is the same trim that I used for the tags that I showed you. Now the gold is like real gold. So in the brush metallic, there is a gold that is more true gold. The one that I use today is almost like a peachy kind of color. So, and if you didn't notice what I did, so when it comes off the spool, it's quite twisty. Just take your fingernails and go like this along the string, and it's going to just straighten it out for you, so it's a little bit easier to work with. So I'm going to fold a bow and pinch it with my one finger. I wrap it around, and it's too short. Hold on, hold the fork. I need a little more string. Wrap it around, and then I'm going to just tuck that through like that. So my daughter, she ties bows like a pro, and she does it with rabbit ears. So she makes 2 rabbit ears and tucks them through like that. So if that works better for you, you go for it. And then I just kind of pull at the ends until I get the size of bow that I want. Don't worry about your tails. You can trim those off. Okay. And once again, we're going to go back to our mini glue dots. I'm going to just stick that onto the glue dot and then pinch it off and adhere it to my card. Now the glue dot gives you an opportunity to kind of manipulate the strings a little bit where you want them to be. So at this point, I kind of want my tails to be pointing down. So I'm going to try and, it's not going to cooperate right now, but you can kind of manipulate it in a real life situation. You can manipulate them how you want it. I'm not going to make you guys stick here and watch me do that, but we have our bow at the top of our card. What do you think? Isn't that a pretty one? So there was a few steps to that. It took us a little bit of time. But once you've got your demo card ready, you can kind of funnel these through in not too much, not such a long time. So here we've got our embossing again, and then we've got our paper pieced tag or our paper piece die cut here, which is really pretty. So we did that card tonight, and we also did this card tonight with the stained glass technique. And I showed you to use all those extra little tags that you're going to get from doing these projects to create a box of gift tags for someone that you love or someone that you want to show appreciation to. So these are the projects that we made tonight. So I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you got some new ideas that you can use with the Bright Bauble set 4. And like I said, I haven't even gotten into the stamping and coloring, so watch for another video on that, because it really is, this is a great coloring set, a great set to learn to color. So we're going to do that as well another time. I wanted to give you some other kind of more advanced ideas of how to use this set and to use these dies. So I hope you enjoyed today. Thank you guys for joining me. If you have any questions or comments, just leave them for me and I will get back to you. Again, if you don't have a copy of the catalog and you would like one, just leave your name. If you're in Canada, I will ship one to you free of charge. Yeah, so stay tuned, and thank you guys so much for joining me. And if I don't see you again soon, have a wonderful week, and we'll talk to you again. Happy stamping. Bye.